All right, here we are again. I frequently find downed trees to set up on. It looks like I'm looking directly at the camera. I don't know if that little camera can see me or not. It looks like it's also looking directly at me. If I zoom out, it might see me a little better. Anyway, I'll probably play around with that in a minute. This video is about life experience and how we might be able to go about getting more of it. Everybody wants to experience lots of things and good things and lots of good things, and hopefully we can all fulfill what we feel is what we want out of this life in the lifetime that we are given. But how perhaps do we capitalize on that? So, like, for example, my parents were 28 when they had me, so they would have had 28 years of life experience on me. And if you don't count like the years of infancy and all that, you could probably say they probably have closer to like 32 years of life experience on me. And then that's just them alone. How many other people are in this world that I could learn from that have more life experience than I do? Quite a few. And so the idea would be to latch on to as many other people who have experienced more than you and to learn from their experiences. But the hard part is, especially when you're a much younger individual, is that you want to be an individual. You don't want to be mom 2.0 or dad 2.0 or grandma's little clone or whatever the titles may be. You want to be your own individual. And what that oftentimes means is that you'll be experiencing life through your own lens as much as you possibly can. And I imagine that's probably one of the more frustrating things as a parent, being able to have all this life experience to give to your child, only for them to ultimately reject it for their own individuality. But I think we also have to reflect on the fact that a lot of us were like that as well when we were that age. Like, as I said before, who wants to be the exact copy and the exact clone of the person before them? No one. And so how do you navigate that? How do you become an individual without suffering any more unnecessarily than you should already have to do? And I think that comes down more to kind of balance. Understanding that, okay, yes, your parents have all these valuable life lessons for you to learn from, and learn from them you should, but you can also form your own lessons and have your own opinions while doing that. And I think that is also an important thing to note and a good thing to be aware of. To make your own mistakes, form your own life, and then use the experience from those around you to capitalize on what you have learned. Sounds extremely cliched to say that, but a lot of people will say, like, a mistake is valuable because you learned something from it. And so long as you learn something from the mistake, you're doing good by yourself and by those around you. But if you can take what you learned and apply someone else's life experiences to it, then you've doubled your learning potential. Now, granted, you could just follow that person's advice from the get-go and never have the mistake, but that comes at the cost of living one's life. And the idea kind of comes back to the idea of it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And it's like it's better to have lived and made your own mistakes than never to have lived at all. At what point in time does the life that you live become a mundane replica of all the other things that you're doing and of all the things that you have done and all the things that everyone else around you told you to do or not to do. And for a lot of us, we spend the first 18 years of our lives just navigating the do's and don'ts of other people. And that is why we frequently, in our teenage years, as we get closer to adulthood, we're like, okay, you know what? No, I'm out of here. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And like the reality of the situation is we once lived in a society where 9 years old was considered adulthood. Now, granted, that was like the medieval times and these colonial times and all these things, but like if at one point in time we had the maturity to be that way at that age, then why not say that we could have the maturity now? And I'm not saying that we should treat children like adults, because they're not. But it's just interesting how we can be so coddled to by those around us because of our youth. And at some point in time, the youth will be that generation. They will be the current generation. And it's interesting how those things kind of fold. Like, you have your generation that's on their way out. They're the old hat, the old guard. You have your generation that's on the way in. They're up and coming. And then you have the younger generation nipping at their heels right behind them. And it's very much so a competitive thing. It's not something that we always are thinking very highly on or at all about. But it's something to consider. And that is, in my opinion, how you build up a better repertoire and a better life experience, is by capitalizing on the experiences of those around you. Maximizing your learning potential by making your own mistakes. Absolutely live your own life. I'm not saying that you should wholeheartedly just follow someone's advice or blindly do what someone else says, but as you navigate life, apply the things that other people have said to it, and use that as a way to enrich your own life and as a way to gain the experience that you lacked and wish that you had. And that comes with like the friends that you surround yourself with. For the first 18 years of most anyone's life, their friends are the same age as them. They don't have any more life experience to provide to them. They hopefully don't have any less, but it's kind of a wash. They might come from different walks and different backgrounds, and you can get a lot from that. But as far as like experience is concerned, those is usually going to come from people more advanced in age than you are. And it wasn't until I joined the working force and the working world that I started to gain those more experienced friendships and learn from those around me who have been in the game and who had done it before. And I absolutely still did my own thing. I still made my own choices. And some of the choices I made didn't line up with the choices that they made or the choices that they feel they would have made if they were in my shoes. But I am still very happy and proud of where I am and what I have become and the experiences that I've garnered. And here I am, not even a 30-year-old individual yet, and I feel the need to impart my knowledge upon other people with the experiences that I've had, the experiences that I've lived, and how I feel that one should live their lives. One of the biggest proverbs that I share with anybody is, in order to win at life, you first need to define what winning is. And what it comes down to is there is an infinite amount of ways to win at this game of life. You need to figure out what it is you want out of this life. What are you wanting to accomplish? What are you hoping to get? What are you hoping to gain? And how are you going to get there? And once you establish those very important things, then start moving in a way that gets you there. But don't just follow what everyone else says, because it's very easy to fall in the trap of society. And society expects X, Y, and Z out of you, and you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Excuse me. But if you're wanting more than X, Y, and Z out of this world, then you need to pursue it. And you need to establish what is X, Y, and Z for you. It could be anything. It could be starting a family, having a decent job, and just living an American standard life. It could be travel. It could be seeing the entire world, visiting every country at least once. It could be creative stuff. For me, it is creative stuff. Being able to create all the things in this life that I want to create before I'm done with it. And once you establish what it is that you want out of life and what life means to you, then you can start making the moves to make it your own and to accomplish your goals and to keep those forever in mind. But so many people get bogged down with what should be or what everyone's telling us we should be doing or we should need. And there's a lot of life requirements, if you will, things that you have to worry about just to live and exist in this kind of world. And that's another thing that's going to bog down and create some noise on your plate. But I always start people out with clarity, and I tell them, like, hey, figure out what winning means for you. Figure that out, get it established, and then move towards it. Don't get bogged down by the mess, the noise, other people, whatever people might think. You do what's best for you. And you'll find people who support that or who even have the same philosophies as you. And you'll surround yourself with them. Losing touch with friends and maybe even family isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes that's exactly what you need to be able to do what you need to do. Not saying that you should intentionally, not saying that you should intentionally cut people off unless you know that there's someone that you need to cut off. Because that's another thing that's valuable to me, is spending time with people and valuable people that are important to me. I'm not huge into relationships in the romantic sense, but I am very passionate about like platonic friendships and making sure that I can be the best friend that I can possibly be to anyone who chooses to also reciprocate. And so it's just navigating life's ups and downs and understanding what life wants out of you and what you want out of it and getting there. And that is how I feel like we can master the experience of life, is establishing for ourselves what we want out of it, understanding that as thoroughly as we possibly can. It will be a constant struggle. I have come to terms and comfort with my mind and how it works and understanding myself. And despite all of that, I still am struggling and constantly convincing myself that what I'm doing is right. What I'm doing is what I should be doing. And until you can understand how yourself works and what you want out of this life, that's going to be a constant battle that you're fighting. But after you get that clarity, you will make mistakes, you will stumble, you will fall, you might even break something, and that is fine. Because if you have a strong support group of people or of knowledge, whatever you choose to support yourself with, and leverage that to learn from each fall, from each break, from every tumble, and eventually you will build yourself into the person that you want to be. And that, in my opinion, is how one goes about gaining an adequate amount of life experience. I'm used to being timed on these videos and trying to better understand whether or not I've made my time goal or not. But I also try and make these videos incredibly natural in that I don't script them, I conceptualize them, and then I sit down and I talk. And I say what's on my mind, I say my piece, I say what I have to say, and I let everyone else decide if it's valuable or not.